Elseworlds version of Batman, Batmankoff, a Russian terrorist, origin explored. The DC comics tend to retain its continuity and lore. If they want to deviate from it, they will simply create another world. Want an evil Batman? Oh, there you go. Now you have the Earth 3 supervillain called Owlman. But with a new world, you've got to keep its continuity in mind when you are writing the other stories, as you do not want to break the already existing continuity. This makes things a bit complicated, and this is where the Elseworlds publication imprint comes into play. It ventures into different, alternate situations and presents a story based on that possible world. It's not something the writers have to keep in mind when writing for the other issues of DC Comics. Today, we are going to talk about one of the most popular stories from the Elseworlds publication imprint, Mark Millar's Superman, Red Sun Comics, from 2003, which also got a film adaptation in 2020. In this story, Superman pod landed in Ukraine, and he became a Soviet soldier. Meanwhile, the darling of today's video, Batman, or Batmankoff, had his parents killed by the communists of Russia. As a result, Batman became Soviet Russia and Superman's worst enemy. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Origins of the Russian Batman. The Russian Batman, or Batmankoff, made his first appearance in the comic Superman Red Sun Rising, which is the first issue of the series. Before we get down to Batman, let's go over the state of affairs that existed during this time. It's the 1950s, and the United States of America is engaged in the Cold War against the Soviet Union. The Kryptonian pod that had originally crash-landed in Kansas, Smallville, has instead landed in Ukraine. The Kryptonian boy from the pod has grown up to be his usual powerful self, but with socialist ideals. He fights for Soviet Russia and is Joseph Stalin's right-hand man. However, his ideals transcend the boundaries of only helping his country, as Superman is willing to help anyone who is in need, irrespective of whether they're Russian or not. Meanwhile, America's mad scientist Lex Luthor is working himself to death, not literally, in order to destroy Superman, and he finds quite the pleasure in doing so. Back in Russia, the USSR is also working on their connections with Themyscira, which brings Princess Diana, also known as Wonder Woman, into the picture. With both Superman and Wonder Woman working together, the USSR is practically unbeatable. Stalin's illegitimate son, Pyotr Roslov, is terribly jealous of Superman and the fact that his father favors an alien over his own son, which will inadvertently prevent his advancement within the political sphere of the country. He hates how Superman's presence has changed the power structure of the USSR. The press in the country is also severely restricted, so much so that when a couple had printed anti-Superman propaganda, Pyotr was forced to kill them in front of their own son. Sound familiar? In fact, after inflicting the little boy with tremendous pain, he couldn't get over the resolve and patience that he saw in that boy's eyes. Some believe that the boy later drowned himself in the Moscow River, while others say that he relocated to the sewers and swore revenge on the government. Right after this, the comics show us an all-too-familiar visual, one where a young boy in despair is surrounded by bats flying all around him. Stalin dies soon after, following a secret cyanide poisoning by Pyotr himself, which the people do not find out about, and Superman has to take over the Soviet Union. He was never interested in politics, but following an incident where he witnessed his childhood crush, her children, and other citizens standing in queues for scraps of food, his viewpoint changes. Superman decides to become the country's leader and turn it into a utopian place where no one has to suffer. With his powers and abilities, Superman is able to achieve his goal. His super hearing and super speed were the reasons he was always aware of any major trouble and would always reach there in time to rescue the people in need. By the time it is the 1970s, every country in the world, barring the capitalist USA and Chile, both at the brink of fiscal collapse, has become a part of the Soviets. Lex Luthor's attempts to assassinate Superman have failed constantly. At the same time, there's a growing rebellion against the strict Soviet government regime within Russia itself, namely the rebellion led by Batman. And Luthor wasn't the type of guy who would let that opportunity go to waste. Batman is Soviet Russia's most wanted man now and heads an anarchist terrorist net that is staunchly against Superman. The terrorists believe that Superman's action work less in favor of the public and more in favor of keeping them oppressed and loyal to the regime. This, clubbed with the restrictions on the freedom of speech and expression, has done well to polarize certain people against Superman and his regime. Batman blows up a museum but manages to escape the country's military, and Superman doesn't intercept him either. No matter how many miracles Superman is capable of, he always fails to capture Batman. And this hasn't gone unnoticed. Some even believe that Batman was the ghost of the murdered dissidents in Russia, and he never seems to die. And what mere mortal could even rival Superman? Batman allies himself with LexCorp and the killer of his parents, Pyotr. He knows that Pyotr wants Superman out of the picture, and he knows that this is the man who killed his parents. However, Batman primarily wants revenge against the system that caused his misery, but he is definitely not opposed to taking Pyotr out, and it is very much something he still wants to do. He has access to some of the most high-tech gadgets of his time. His residences are also coated with lead, as it prevents Superman's super hearing from accessing his conversations. Anyway, on Superman Day, Batman executes his plan. During a fireworks show where the fireworks were supposed to create the Soviet Superman's emblem in the sky, they instead end up creating the bat signal. Meanwhile, Superman is also worried about Wonder Woman's absence from the party. On seeing the bat's emblem, he immediately rushes to find Batman. A really cool scene follows, which we will get into when we talk about the animated movie based on these comics, so rest assured. But anyway, Batman ends up dying after this exchange and is considered to be martyred by the ones who believed in him. The bat symbol then becomes an emblem for the anti-government anarchists in Russia and is taken up as a mantle by others. So, after the fall of Superman's collectivist regime, the Batman took to the streets and took control of Russia.
The conditions of your home world.
Interesting story of Russian Batman in Superman Red Son 2020. The 2020 animated film Superman Red Son follows Mark Millar's comic miniseries to a large extent. However, it does stray from the original story for bits and pieces. And with reference to Batmankoff, or the Russian Batman, the movie lays down the foundation for his story by depicting how terribly the people were treated in the gulags of Stalin's Soviet Union. In the movie, Superman first appears as a boy who is being chased by some bullies. When a girl named Svetlana tries to help him, he tells her how he was actually trying to protect them from his powers. Svetlana, on seeing his abilities, suggests he use his power for his country, which sets the upcoming events into motion. In the 1950s, Superman is a prominent hero in Stalin's Soviet Russia. After an incident with a satellite crash staged by the American scientist Lex Luthor, Superman secures an interview with the American journalist Lois Lane, and from her, he gains access to a top-secret document which leads him to a secret gulag. He was unaware of its existence as the gulag was protected by lead. Superman storms the place and sees how horribly the people were treated as they took part in rigorous labor on the regular. Around this time, he comes across a 9-year-old orphaned boy. The boy looks Superman straight in the eye and says,
"They say you can hear a leaf fall 1,000 miles away, and you never heard our cries?"
Well, he didn't know about the lead protection thing, but it was a monumental dialogue nonetheless, the succeeding shot being with the bats. It is clear who this boy is. Anyway, Superman finds a dying Svetlana in the gulag, who was captured since she knew his real identity. Following her death, Superman kills Stalin to take over the Soviet Union and rule in a way he considers to be the right way. Time goes on, and the orphaned boy grows up to become the terrorist known as Batman. He blames Superman for the death of his family, and as a result, stands against him. The museum scene from the comic is brought to life, as a woman in the Superman Museum explains how Superman's actions have turned Karl Marx's envisioned world into a reality where everyone is equal. Batman crashes the party with his speech about bringing chaos by blowing Superman's system apart. The museum soon explodes, and Batman hijacks one of the aircrafts of the Russian military. He uses it to take the others down and escapes the gun firings of the cops, and he does it all without Superman being able to interfere. Later, he captures Wonder Woman and binds her with his own lasso of truth. With her hands bound, she is unable to use her powers, and with Batman holding the lasso, she has no choice but to be obedient to him. He uses it as bait to lure Superman into his trap, and it works. When Superman arrives, Batman once again breaks out into a flurry of top-notch dialogues.
For all your powers, you've always underestimated the greatest weapon of all, the human mind.
Imagine being badass enough to face a god because you are smart enough to take him down. Batman also reveals that he has attached a bomb to his own heart. Superman finds it funny as to how that could possibly stop him, but then Batman reveals his real weapon. He projects the red light from multiple red sun lamps towards Superman. Superman thinks that all it can do is give him a heat rash in 1,000 years when Batman rushes toward him and brings out blood from his face with a single punch. Superman is shocked, as this is a first. Batman explains how he got the lamps from Lex Luthor, the American scientist who specializes in doing the impossible. With Superman's strength neutralized by solar radiation that mimics the radiation of his home planet, he falls prey to Batman's superior combat technique. The Bat beats the Man of Steel into a pulp and drags him to a cellar, hoping to imprison him in there forever. And with the lamps running, he will never be able to escape. However, Wonder Woman comes to the rescue as she goes through great pain to destroy the lasso and removes the generator that powers the lamps. Superman is powered once again, and Batman is not the type to allow himself to get lobotomized, and so he detonates the bomb that was within him and dies. He also lets Superman know that Roslov was the one that betrayed him by joining hands with Batman. The story for the series primarily revolves around Superman, so there's more focus on his antics than that of Batman. However, Batman's rebellious presence adds that much-needed spice to the story. And with that, today's video comes to an end. What did you think of the Russian Batman? Did you enjoy this video? If yes, then don't forget to like and comment on this video. Till then, goodbye, and have a nice one.